afternoon, everyone. The infamous graveyard shift, as they say, but don't worry, I'm overdosing on the caffeine. I am wary that I've got a 30-minute slot and it's sort of that time of day, so I will try and get through the next 35 slides, actually it's only 10, in the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, just in terms of my background, I've been in the aviation business for 25 years. Yep, I know, I don't look my age. I've actually been in the Middle East for 20 years, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Qatar, Qatar Airways, Etihad Airways, and dnata. More recently, what's been really insightful, I would say, over the course of the day and the really excellent presentations that I've seen is that whilst the presentations have been focused on the financial investment sector, it's been comforting, I would say, to see that the principles throughout all the presentations are very much similar to what we've done from an aviation perspective, and you'll see that reflected in many of the slides I'm going to go through very shortly. So just without further ado, I am going to go into a little bit more detail into some of the key themes that I touched upon earlier today, this morning. So I've already given a background very briefly this morning around the establishment of the company back in 1959. We've certainly been on a long journey and are a very mature organization and part of the Emirates group as well. So just to give a background in terms of how we've got to where we are today with MetricStream. So we are a very large and diverse organization with a global footprint, and we've mentioned already that we operate out of 140 plus locations across 26 countries and more to come over the next few years. Something which has been fundamental to that is having a consistent theme in terms of how we manage health, safety, and more recently environment within an organization of our size. When I came into my role just under 2 years ago, one of the challenges that we'd faced was that we previously had what was called an integrated management system, an IMS that you may well be familiar with. That kind of lost its way, and it had become really complicated, very high maintenance. And the worst thing about it was that our key businesses, so airport operations, cargo, catering, and the travel group, had disconnected because they found it too difficult. It had created a siloed approach within the organization and also a lot of antagonism and in some cases, not literal, but there were some fisticuffs, if you like, as a result of that. And the problem being that, like I say, it was very technical and it wasn't explained, it wasn't simplified, and the worst thing you can do when it comes to safety, in my opinion, is overcomplicate things. And it's about getting the core messages to the frontline workforce. So when I came into this role, the first thing I did was sit down with our leadership team and we looked at what do we currently have to manage safety risk within the organization. We have dnata hub, which is our branded term for the MetricStream product. That was introduced, as I mentioned earlier today, in 2015, and it has evolved over the last few years. And I'll take you through some of the applications very shortly that we currently use to manage health and safety within the organization. So we sat down and we looked at what currently works and what currently doesn't. So the IMS, within about 6 months, was retired from active duty, as we call it. And we went back to the good old SMS, safety management system, to simplify how we manage and influence positive safety behavior within the organization. So you'll see here the term one dnata. So one dnata was introduced because the business was growing at a rapid pace. There were so many different systems that were being used. We adopted an approach called many to few. So to bring the business under one operational umbrella from a GRC perspective. And to put it into perspective as a business, we recently launched operations as a greenfield site in Tanzania, in Zanzibar, and that was last year. And the beauty of that was right from the startup, we actually implemented Dnata Hub. So the beauty of that being that our team on the ground in Zanzibar could raise occurrence reports, stop observations, and I'll explain what one of those is shortly. And that would then integrate into Dnata Hub, and we could then trend data versus what our teams in Australia were reporting, the US, Brazil, and so forth. So it gave us that level of consistency, and everyone was singing from their same hymn sheet, as they say. So that's got a number of considerable advantages. So one dnata is a way that we're all moving in the same direction, using the same systems and using the same platform. And Dnata Hub really has moved us in a very strong direction. As a result of that, we need to make sure we give our people the right tools to succeed. And as I say, I'll come on to some of those as an example very, very shortly. So our SMS, and you probably saw this slide this morning, but just to elaborate on where we are with this. So the DSMS, as it's branded, was launched in September last year. So we have a corporate-wide safety management system manual, which is very, very simple. And that complies with all the requirements of IATA, which are called the GOSAPs, Standards and Recommended Practices, and also the ISO standards as well. So with that common baseline, any new startup operations such as Zanzibar and others can use that as their baseline manual and adopt local variations where required. So for example, we have a large operation in the UK, and our teams in Heathrow can use the DSMS as a baseline and have their own local variations and manual amendments to suit their UK CAA requirements, or whatever it might be. As an organization, we do have a common goal as a wider global safety team, and that, as you can see, is down here. So that's to adopt or attain a best-in-class corporate HSE system through strategic and tactical action plans that are smart in nature to deliver on our 2024 goals and beyond. So central to achieving that is the Dnata Hub and its core applications. So on that journey, so 2015 was the beginning. So my predecessors launched Dnata Hub, working very closely with Gaurav and team at the time. Over the course of the last few years, there has been global outreach as we've expanded our businesses and joint ventures. So we operate in many parts of the world, as I've mentioned. Our biggest markets currently are the US, Brazil, and Australia. And also we have a very large operation across Europe as well. Phase 3 in 2020, pre-pandemic, was more around mobility and how we give our people on the front line the opportunity to report proactive observations on the job. And as we go into the rest of this year and into 2024 and beyond, we are working with the product team within MetricStream to look at how we can start to roll out predictive analysis as well, which ultimately would become a gold standard for aviation service companies. So the focus areas are cloud-based technology, continuous improvement and evolution of our platform, and the cognitive aspects as well. So we can report incidents. So we have a large occurrence reporting database. We have what's called DMS, Documentation Management System. We have incident analytics. We can produce at any one time Power BI dashboards directly from the system. We can report observations. We have de-auditor, so we can actually produce surveys and also issue an action management as well. These are the numbers, so very healthy in terms of the numbers of observations, so 200,000, and we currently have around 40 to 45,000 active users using these apps. So in terms of our values and KPIs, we currently have 6. The most recent one, which is now a real big focus for us, is sustainability. And that sits under my portfolio. I have a team of 4 environment SMEs who are doing a fantastic job as we start to roll out our environmental management system as well. And I think the last presenters talked about ESG. That's a journey that we are going on at the moment. And we do manage and also receive environmental data collection across our global businesses on a monthly basis. So an example of how we've adopted the applications within the platform. So I mentioned during my presentation this morning the importance of safety being our foremost priority. And as far as we're concerned, visible leadership and leading safety from the front is absolutely fundamental. So what we've done in the last 6 to 12 months is use the de-auditor app within the platform to develop what's called the LSTOP, or Leadership Stop app. So essentially it's an app on the mobile device, and there is a KPI or metric associated with this. So leaders from each of the businesses, so we classify those as being managing director, general manager, CEOs, are required to go out on a monthly basis and perform what's called an LSTOP observation or leadership tour. So it's got a series of set questions. They're required to go out there, have dialogue and conversation with the supervisors, with the frontline employees, have an open conversation about what's working and what isn't working, and ensure there's that robust feedback loop and actually see tangible change within the organization from a leadership perspective. We have a 100% compliance rate requirement, and we produce a monthly HSE business report that goes out to all leadership, including our group CEO, and any non-conformity is escalated accordingly for action. Stop observation, very similar in principle, very, very easy, very intuitive, and the stop observation is designed for all frontline employees. We have metrics associated on a monthly basis with the stop program as well, and we currently have around 200,000 observations plus that have been conducted within the platform. And apparently, as of yesterday, is the latest stat I've got, there's been around 10,000 mobile downloads of the Stop app onto employee phones. So it's readily accessible, and it's something which has had really positive feedback within the organization. And it's important that our employees have the voice to escalate any concerns within their respective business. It's also important to note that the stop observation was so fundamental. Everyone is familiar with the fact that the aviation industry took an absolute battering during the pandemic and has rebounded very, very quickly. One of the biggest challenges that we faced is shortage of manpower. That's the same across the entire aviation industry, as you'd be familiar with from media reports and so forth. One of the risks of that was that people were rushing to meet commercial pressures. One of those would be on-time performance of an aircraft, for example. So we've made it very clear to our customer airlines, we are not going to rush in the interest of on-time performance. So we have the stop observation data to identify where we've delayed flights proactively for safety issues, for example. And it's had really positive feedback, and also proactively to intervene in a potential safety-related issue. We also continually monitor performance, so we have level 1 and level 2 audits. So we have things called task control checks, where you have to perform a turnaround audit on a periodic basis. That's for level 1. And we also have level 2, which is our own internal quality team that go out independently and audit many aspects of the business. We have DMS, so we've got thousands of documents hosted within our DMS platform, and all can be attested. So examples of this would be safety alerts, policy, guidelines, anything to do with the SMS. Enterprise analytics, hopefully an upcoming gold standard. We've been working with our in-house EA team to develop over the last 6 months, and phase 1's about to be launched, how we can predict when safety events are going to be happening across the global business with an associated heat map. And we're currently around 40% accuracy in terms of the forecasting, but we're projecting up to 80% over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. So our competition, Swissport, NAS, can't touch us when it comes to something like that. This will be a gold standard when it comes to ground handling within the industry. So the journey, as I mentioned earlier, has been a long one. We've achieved many successes. We've had a lot of success when it comes to training of dnata hub, the support infrastructure. We have a support team in Clark in the Philippines who provide 24/7 support to our global businesses. Strategy, we have a dnata 2024 strategy with the 6 values core to achieving that. And from a health and safety perspective, dnata hub is central to achieving that success, but also continuous engagement. We've got a lot of plans over the course of the next 6 to 12 months working with MetricStream to achieve those. And we hope to have Euphrates, the next upgrade, rolled out by September or October this year. And with 3 minutes and 16 seconds left, quite some time back. Thank you. So, any questions?
We got one more person after you.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. We have the chairman of MetricStream, yeah. Yes, I see a question for you here, though.
Thank you. So implicit in a lot of what you've been saying, and in some of the earlier presentations today, is the importance of resilience in an organization. But resilience and efficiency are antithetical, because resilience implies a belt and braces approach, which obviously involves some inefficiency. Competitive pressures on a company over time cause it to squeeze out the inefficiencies in order to improve operational and financial performance. So as the business is becoming more and more efficient, it's becoming less and less resilient until it reaches a point where disaster may happen. So my question is, how do you prevent competitive pressures from eroding resilience?
That's a very good question. How long have you got? So, can you say that one again?
Sorry, how do you prevent competitive pressures from eroding resilience?
Yeah. So, it's a very good question. As I mentioned earlier, one of our biggest risks has been resource post-pandemic. And the way that we manage resilience and business continuity and so forth is that we have a daily operational review meeting. So that identifies any key risks within the business. So we use the dnata hub to facilitate that. And where we see key trends or risks appearing across the business, that is the point where we determine where the leadership team needs to become involved to mitigate those risks where possible. There are challenges, definitely, but I think by adopting this process, it's enabled us to identify where the core issues are across the business and to put necessary measures in place. I'm not sure if it's answering your question or not, but we can maybe have that over a drink shortly. Yeah. Good question, though. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, David. That was great, and thanks for the added detail from this morning.